Hey guys, I keep putting off doing a garden tour because I want everything to be pretty and weed free and not have trash or pots laying everywhere, but I don't think that's ever going to happen because by the time I get one section cleaned up, the next section's a mess. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick garden tour. Hopefully I can get through it really fast and just kind of go over what I've got going on in the garden. And I'll do another video soon and go over the different varieties that I'm growing, especially with the tomatoes and squashes and stuff like that. So if we start right here, I'm growing cucumbers up these leaned trellises against the fence. In the front, we have very, very large borage plants that I started in pots. It's one of the things they say to direct seed, that they don't really like being transplanted, but I have a horrible time direct seeding anything in my garden. So anytime I do, it's like horrible germination, and so I can grow just about anything in a pot, but for some reason, whenever I try to grow it direct from seed in the garden, it doesn't do so hot. So I've got a few cucumber plants left. I don't know what's wrong with me in growing cucumbers. I looked this up, and it says that it's probably a fungus from squash beetles, which I do have a lot of, and that really stinks. But they always do this. They get about this tall, and then they shrivel up and die, and that really kind of sucks. But I've got them growing all over the garden in different places, hoping that I can get cucumbers this year. I've got 2 whole rows up in the new garden that we put in on Sunday, and then so these are still cucumbers along here. Still not a bunch of them. Like I said, there were tons, but they've all shriveled up and died, so I don't know what to do about that. So the next section, we've got beans. All along the front, I've got bush beans, and then up the back, I've got pole beans growing. So I'll be able to pick these all throughout the season for fresh eating, and then hopefully these will all come in about the same time and I can can them. In this row, I've got all kinds of different squashes and zucchinis. So they all started out, I've started them all, and they've all gotten eaten up really bad with bugs. And for the most part, even though they get eaten up that bad, they end up powering through and coming back up and doing really well. So I'm just leaving them alone, even though they look really terrible, which I have lost a couple plants. That one is still trying to hang on, but that one died. I'm just going to let them go and see what can recover. And then if they die, squash, I have a little better luck with squash growing it from seed. So I'll just pop some new seeds in if they go bad. This section right here is peppers. I've got peppers. These are all sweet peppers. All my hot peppers are all over here in front of these trellises. And then I've got sweet peppers all on this side and this side. They're all different varieties, from bell peppers to pimentos to Jimmy Nardellos, all kinds of different kinds. Over here is corn. We planted, all the tall stalks are the only ones that came up whenever I direct seeded these. So I direct seeded this whole section and I got like 9 plants that came up. So I started some in pots or in seed cells and transplanted them out when they were about a week old, and they've done awesome. So I just give up on direct seeding corn. I don't know why it refuses to grow for me. I say that, but I did direct seed some up at the new garden, and hopefully those will grow. If not, I did start some in seed cells just in case. As we go along over here, we've got okra. I planted this just on Saturday. Look how big they are. They've already all popped up. I planted 3 rows of okra here. Hi, buddy. And then over here, I plant way too many tomato seeds whenever I plant tomato seeds. And I probably had 500 or more tomato plants altogether. I sold a ton, but I've got over 300 now planted. No, I have over 300 planted in this garden, and then we planted another garden. There's a lot of tomatoes. So I've got all these along here, tomatoes. I grow a lot of heirlooms and different varieties that you have to grow from seed or you'd never see them. So I really like the different varieties that you'd never get to try if you don't grow them from seed. So those are all tomatoes all along here that we just added because I had extra. This I'm hoping is a loofah. I had squash plants popping up all over my garden, and we left loofahs in here last year that went to seed and kind of scattered everywhere. So I'm hoping that I get a couple loofahs, because I didn't plant any specifically loofahs this year because I thought I had them everywhere. But I did have a surprise earlier. I'll show you in a second. So like I said, down this row is sweet peppers, and there's a couple eggplants down there. I have a real bad time growing eggplants also. The flea beetles make them to lace immediately after I plant them. But I have gotten a couple eggplants last year, so I'm hoping these will power through. This section right here, okay, so all these arches down here on this bottom flat are tomatoes. There are 6 on each side, and it's like 3 of one kind and 3 of another all the way down. So I have, I don't know how many varieties down here, but there's all these different tomatoes, and they've all gotten super big already. I'm really proud about that. And we've already got blooms everywhere. I've got a couple of them that actually have tomatoes on them. Right there's a couple. I don't know if you can see it. Well, there's one. And then I just interplanted like some nasturtiums down in the corners. In this bed back here, I planted broccoli and cauliflower, and those were super late starts. I knew that they were probably not going to do anything, but I got them at a plant sale, so I went ahead and planted them. And then I planted these Brussels sprouts really early, like really, really early, and they just didn't grow at all. Like that one's just now starting to grow, but I don't think there's any chance I'll get Brussels sprouts. I did plant them where they'll get shade after the tomatoes grow up, but I don't know if I'll actually get anything from them. Also behind the tomatoes, I have pole beans. So I have these, I think these were the rattlesnake pole beans or the yard-long beans. I have 2 different yard-long beans and then the rattlesnake pole beans growing up this way. So hopefully they'll take the trellis first, and then the tomatoes I can just raise them over top of them and attach them. I have random zinnias planted everywhere and some volunteer beans popping up that I didn't plant. Over here I've got cabbages. They are a little eaten up, but I think they're going to do okay. Actually, some of them are looking really good. I don't remember what all the varieties are. I know these were red acres, but I don't remember what the other ones were. So I'm still holding out hope that I might get some cabbage, even though it's kind of late for them, as hot as it's been. They're still doing okay, and I'm hoping it's because of where I planted them. Back here I've got celery. I've never been successful with celery before, but this year it's actually doing really well. So that's exciting. In this trellis and these 2 trellises, I have cherry tomatoes. So those are 12 different varieties of cherry tomatoes. I did the same thing with these, 3 and 3 each side of the trellis. And so I have all these different colored cherry tomatoes. So when this grows up and over, hopefully they take over these trellises and they look really awesome. And I can just stand and pick all the tomatoes. This section over here, I have broccoli and cauliflower. My cauliflower just did not take off also, just like the Brussels sprouts. Like these have been in for months and just never grew. A couple of them are trying right here, but they're still way behind. They should be way bigger than they are. The broccoli, I was kind of worried I wasn't going to get any broccoli, which sucks because we eat a lot of broccoli. But I came out the other day and I've got heads on the broccoli. So these are some littler ones, but this one right here, I come out every day and I can tell how much bigger it is. It was like just barely the size of my fist 2 days ago, and now it's gotten bigger, so that's exciting. Over here on these trellises, I've got San Marzano tomatoes. All of these need stood up so bad. I'm waiting on my tomato tie gun to get here, but I've already got some tomatoes coming in. That's exciting. But this whole row is all Romas. I didn't get that end weeded, so I still have a section down there I haven't planted yet, but I've got a few more tomato plants. I might just stick them in late. So this is the bottom section. Let's go up to the middle section of the garden real fast. Also, I think I forgot to mention this. Right here, I forgot a pack of watermelon seeds outside in the garden. So I came out here, it rained that night, and the next morning I came out, I think it was Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, I came out and saw that I'd left the seed packet and went ahead and planted these in the pouring rain that morning before I went to work, just to make sure that those seeds didn't completely go to waste. So this middle section of the garden has a lot of my perennials and herbal plants. I planted this echinacea 3 years ago, and I'd never had a bloom on it, so I was super excited a couple weeks ago when these finally came in. It's the first time I've ever got this echinacea to bloom. Right here I've got nasturtiums. I guess I've never had a trailing variety before. I thought I did because they kind of fall over and go, but they did not do this. They did not trail like that. So these are really cool. I can't remember. I think they're called Purple Emperor. I'm hoping. I've got these planted all over the garden, so I'm excited to see them trail off everywhere. I've got some daisies. There's a dahlia back here that's kind of slow coming along. In the center, I've got kales, and I think one of these is a collard green. I've got tags underneath them. I'll have to check. Over here, I've got 2 different kinds of echinaceas. This one I got at Lowe's last year. It was a tiny little, like, burn-up plant in the clearance section, and it's huge now. Like, that is very promising for my discount plants. And then this one over here I got on Mother's Day from Imels, and it just had that one bloom in the middle, and it's really taken off, so it's doing awesome. Love the colors. I think they're really pretty. I've also got a ground cherry that came up right here. Oh, not you, you're a weed. This one. That came up on its own. This is my calendula. I absolutely love calendula. I just think it's the prettiest flower. Right now it doesn't look gorgeous like it usually does, but we use this a lot medicinally for like skin things. So I wanted a lot of calendula, and I did have it coming back as a volunteer every year, and then when we tore our garden up to redo it, I didn't get any back the next year, so I was really bummed. But these started from seed in trays, and they have done amazing. Over here I've got a bee balm bush that hasn't flowered at all yet. I think they're supposed to have a lot of flowers on them, but I don't know when they actually flower. This whole section right here is a disaster of parsley. I let it go, and it all went to seed. And there were some swallowtail caterpillars on here for a while. I haven't seen any in a couple days, so maybe they're gone now. I was kind of letting them have the plant until they were done, and then I was going to cut it back some. Back in this corner, I've got some artichokes. They do pretty good back here in this shady spot. I planted them out in the sun one year, and they burnt up really bad, so I thought maybe they could handle a little shade, and they're doing pretty good back there. Hoping to get some artichokes this year, and hopefully they'll come back perennially. This giant plant right here is a marshmallow. So I grow this for the root. We use it medicinally for sore throats. It's got a lot of mucilage in it that helps soothe your throat whenever you have a sore throat, and it works really, really well. So I'm growing it. You leave it in the ground for 2 years, and then you dig up the roots. So this is its 2nd year. So I'm going to get the roots out of this one, and it happened to spread. I don't know if it spread by seed or by root, but it spread out here. So I'll leave this plant for next year, and then use its roots next year, and hopefully I have a new plant next year. Right here I have bronze fennel. I don't honestly know what you're supposed to do with bronze fennel. I got seeds for it and decided to start it. It smells like licorice. It's kind of cool. I think it's pretty. It's really ferny and soft to touch, but I guess I'll look up what to do with it once I get some harvested. These that are all tore up in this little bare section right here is where my dog lays. Tilly absolutely loves this spot. It's shaded and the ground is cool, I guess. So she's always in this bed, and I have to get onto her all the time, but she doesn't listen. So anytime the garden gates are open, she's in here. I've got carrots growing in this grow bag. They're doing pretty good. I occasionally come in and pick some of the smaller ones that are close together. That way the next one beside of it has time to grow. But they're doing really good over here in the shade. They don't really seem to have any problems with the heat here. So moving on to this section. This section's completely redone from last year. This was a complete disaster last year, but we completely redid it. Had these 2 beds I needed to put in, and I didn't have anywhere to put them. So when we redid this is what we decided on, and I wanted another arch. So this is what we've got. So these 3 plants back here I thought were loofahs. A whole bunch of them popped up in this bed. I pulled all of them out except for these 3, and I was going to let them grow out and up the hill. Hopefully choke out some of the weeds, and they could just grow along the fence. But the other day I came out, and this one is clearly not a loofah. It has this cute little pumpkin-shaped squash in there. So I'm pretty sure this was the mashed potato squash that I had planted last year, which there was one of those in the greenhouse. So I had this greenhouse, this cheap greenhouse that I built. It was twice this length. I built it out of some bed frames that were shaped kind of like a house, and then I just put plastic over them and built a frame underneath them. And we ended up taking that section, the other section of it, out of the garden, and there was a deck here and all kinds of things. But we had a bunch of produce in there that we didn't have time to get to after we pulled them all off before the first frost, and then didn't have time to get to them, so they all went to seed. They all went in the ground, and there was all those seeds were in this soil. So I thought they were all loofahs, but apparently there was definitely something else. These ones are climbing, like stretching out a lot more like the loofahs did than this one is. So I'm hoping that's what those are, because I did not, like I said, I didn't plant any loofahs thinking they were all over my garden. Just a couple plants here. I've got calendula again here. I planted it in a couple places just to make sure that I have some all over the place. I need to harvest some of these and dry the flowers. Right here I've got some lavender. I put it planted on both sides. This bed needs weeded, and I haven't planted the centers of the beds yet. I don't know what I want to put there. I really am trying to avoid putting more tomatoes there, but I might end up doing that. So on this trellis, I've got the Rampicante squash, which are these super long, like 3 foot long squashes that I grew, 3 or 4 foot long, depending on how long you leave them, that I grew my second garden year. And I thought they were going to come back last year and ended up being birdhouse gourds instead of these. So I didn't have any of these last year, and I was kind of bummed about it. I know I have a spaghetti squash. I can't remember what that one is. I think there's a tag somewhere, but actually that's the Rampicante also. I know this is a Rampicante. There's an acorn squash and something else here. Right here I have a black-eyed Susan I'm super excited about, because that's another thing that's supposed to be super easy to grow, but for whatever reason I can never get them to come up and live. So I started those in a seed cell. I think I started like 12 plants, and that's the only one that survived. I popped it in the ground here, and it's doing really good, so I'm just not messing with it, hoping it'll survive, and I'll have a black-eyed Susan there. I've got some daisies planted back there, more calendula. This is a ground cherry. I kind of mentioned it down there, but ground cherries are, if Andy has talked to you about tomatoes, he's talked to you about ground cherries. He talks about these and how he would come out in the garden and sit and eat them like candy. So these little lantern looking things dry up and turn like a light tan color, and they'll fall to the ground, and this inside the fruit is yellow, and when they hit the ground, that's why they're called ground cherries, they're ready, they're ripe, and they kind of have a pineapple-y, I don't know, I almost want to say pineapple-y mango-y taste to them. They're just really sweet. They don't taste like a tomato at all. They just have like the texture kind of a cherry tomato. It's really hard to describe, but Andy would come out and sit and eat these by the handful and listen to me talk about my plants and pretend to be interested. So I was fine with it. Volunteer dill back there. This is a dahlia and some more borage. And then this planter, I just sucked some zinnia seeds in. It was just empty, so I just threw some seeds down in that. But this is my first dahlia. I grew this from seed. I was pretty excited about that. Then over here we've got strawberries. So I bought 2 different plants, 2 different strawberry planters, one from Bowlings and one from Imels. And I just bought the hanging baskets. I split the baskets apart and got the big plants out of it, and then took all the runners that were coming off the sides and just stuck them on the ground. So they're filling out these beds really well. I also used these cups that I got for my green stalks. You fill them up with dirt, and then you stick a runner down in them, and then once they root, you can cut this off, and you have a whole nother strawberry plant. So I filled 2 green stalks that way out of the runners out of these 2 baskets. So that was definitely the way to go. It's even cheaper than buying bare roots. Then I have asparagus in this plant and another ground cherry that seeded itself. If you grow ground cherries and you let any of them stay on the ground, you will have ground cherries forever, because I didn't plant any this year. They all came back from volunteers. So this is my asparagus. It's 3rd year, but I've moved it twice, so I haven't even given it a chance to get established. I just pulled it up out of its pot and stuck it in here, so there's grass all in there, but it's doing okay now. I'm hoping to plant some more for next year in a permanent bed. I mean, I'll let this bed be an asparagus and strawberry bed, but I'm going to find another place to plant a lot more asparagus. This section up here is kind of a mess right now, but it's going to be the coolest section if it all works out the way I'm hoping. So along this trellis, I'm doing cucumbers. Hopefully let them grow up and fill out and almost make a wall. Right here, I added these arches, all 4 of these arches. They were straight panels that went along this bed, that bed, and this bed, and I had tomatoes on them, which was really cool. It did kind of box it in with tomatoes, but this section really blocked off the view of the garden, and I kind of didn't love that once the tomatoes really filled out. So this year I planted sunflowers all along this bed, all on the back of this bed and this bed. So hopefully this will be like a giant room inside of sunflowers, and I think that'll be really, really cool. And I'll have a table and chairs. I have some furniture that needs to come in here. I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. So on these trellises, I'm talking really fast, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get through this so I can get to work. I've got cherry tomatoes growing up this side. There's 6 of them there. This right here is a raspberry bush. It's done really well. I've got a ton of raspberries off of it. It blew up this year. Like, it was just a stick last year, and it went crazy this year. I didn't know what to do with it. I actually planted strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries in that round bed, but this raspberry has claimed the bed and decided it's all it. So it was laying out all over in the walkways, and I ended up using these arches to help hold it up. For now, in the fall, I'll transplant probably a bunch of it, because I noticed that there's a bunch of different plants now where it's spread. This is Herschel, my garden kitty, who is constantly working against everything I do. I planted butternut squash in this edge of the bed to grow up and over this, and I planted Armenian yard-long cucumbers. I've been trying to grow those for 2 years now, and for some reason, with the cucumbers, I can't grow cucumbers. I don't know what the problem is, but these, I planted them, they got about 4 inches tall, and then they shriveled up and died. So those are supposed to be super heat tolerant. I thought maybe that was my issue, is I had too much sun in the garden, but even those didn't make it. So I've replanted them. Hopefully they come up soon, and they're very vigorous because I need them to grow up over this trellis. In this trellis, I've got some, I can't remember what melons I planted because I was just kind of in a hurry and popping seeds in. So I planted different melons along the bottoms of all these trellises. I know I put like a small watermelon, cantaloupe, and tiger melons in these beds right here for these trellises, but I don't know for sure what kind I've planted. I guess we'll just have to wait to see till they come up. Then I really love this section. Once I get it all cleaned up, I'll have 2 of these chairs that are going to go right here, but you'll be able to sit right here at this table and look out at the garden. This is going to be our coffee drinking section because it's shaded in the morning, and it's just a perfect place to sit. So then I've got mullein that planted itself in this pot. Looks like I'm growing it on purpose. Totally not, but it's fine. I have a volunteer cabbage that's apparently getting eaten up now. I don't know where it came from. I have no idea. I don't know how the seed got here, but I'm letting it go. Then a tomato plant that also grew up there. Speaking of volunteer tomatoes, I have one over here that came up. I didn't plan on putting any tomatoes on that trellis. Like I said, I was going to do cucumbers, but this one, let me walk around this side. This one right here is a blue boreberry. I had some planted along that side last year, so I was really hoping that's what this was when it came up, and it apparently, I mean, it really looks like that's what it is, because I think this was the only cherry tomato I had along this row, and it's doing really, really well. And I didn't have any seeds for this year, and I didn't want to buy them, so I'm really glad to see this come back on its own. So I still have those tomatoes because they're really cool. They're red and then have a purple top, but the leaves from these green leaves from the flower will leave a star imprint on top of this that's still red, and around it will be purple. It's really cool. I can't wait to show you once they have ripened. And I've got a variegated sage right there. I think that thing's really cool. I bought it as a tiny start, I think last year from Hatchers, and I think it's neat because there's sections of it that are popping up that aren't variegated. I don't know why it would do that, but I think it's pretty cool, and it's really taken off. It smells amazing. I love the variegated leaves though. So there's one more thing I want to show you. I'm going to run up to the top part of the yard, but give me just 1 second. So we added a greenhouse this year, and it has been so helpful. I did not have plants all over my kitchen table and floor and counters that I had to move in and out. That was awesome. I had some issues with temperature regulation when I first started with it, but I think I've kind of figured it out now, and we're doing a lot better with it now. This right here is all sweet potatoes. I plan on doing the same thing on the other side. We just haven't had time to put them in. I need to do that soon. Inside the greenhouse is a mess right now. I actually just cleaned it, but then we started planting things, so we've just been throwing stuff back in there. And excuse our mess, because this was kind of on a whim. Sunday morning we woke up and Andy was talking about how he wanted to plant the rest of my tomatoes that I hadn't sold. And so we built a whole new garden in an hour and 17 minutes. I have the before picture and the after picture, and it's an hour and 17 minutes from just grass to having these beds down. And then it was probably 30 minutes later we had the tomatoes in. So we planted all these tomatoes along the trail, or along the fence, and I'm going to use them to grow up the fence. I planted these cherry tomatoes yesterday. These 2 rows are cucumbers, because like I said, I'm just trying cucumbers everywhere because I have horrible luck. And then that last row is corn. So I've got tomatoes all around the outside. Don't pay attention to our leaning arch right now. It hasn't got put in the ground yet, and we ran out of fence for that little tiny section, which really sucks because these come in like 100 or 300 foot rolls. So I've got to get something for a fence right there. But yeah, that was the exciting new add to the garden that we didn't plan on. And actually we got approved for a high tunnel also. So soon we'll have a high tunnel down over the hill. We have a section over the hill behind Andy's garage that we're going to put the high tunnel, and it's what is it, 30 by 48 maybe, or something like that. It's a big high tunnel. So I'll have that area to grow into, so we'll have even more garden space. I'm just basically taking over the entire property. But thank you guys if you stuck around this long. My short garden tour still ended up being almost 30 minutes long. There's a lot of garden to cover here, but if you stuck around this long, thanks for hanging out with me and checking out what I've got in the garden. Hopefully the next video I can do some more in depth about what kind of varieties I'm growing, especially on the tomatoes. That'll be fun. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.